Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 9th meeting with BIDA. Tonight's meeting is a joint meeting with the City of College Park. So before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to recognize all of our distinguished elected officials of the City of College Park. Of course, Mayor Motley Broom and Mayor Pro Tem Jamil McKenzie are regular BIDA members. I want to give a special welcome to Councilman Joe Carnes, Councilman Roderick Gay, Councilwoman Tracy Arnold. On behalf of the BIDA Board, we truly appreciate your presence here tonight and all the work you do for the citizens of College Park. These joint quarterly meetings are a big part of how we move the mission of economic development forward in College Park. By working together, there is a lot of collaboration happening behind the scenes. Collaboration is so very important. These joint meetings give the community a chance to see what collaboration looks like in real time. BIDA and the city working together to shape economic opportunities for the citizens of College Park. Let's get to work. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with hearts full of reverence and expectation. We honor your name. You're the God of wisdom, of strategy, and of purpose. And so we invite your presence into this joint session of Mayor of City Council and the Business Industrial Development Authority of College Park. Let your kingdom come. Let your will be done right here in this room, in this city, and through every decision we make today, just as it is in heaven. Grant us the wisdom we need for today. Wisdom to plan with foresight, wisdom to steward the resources of the city with integrity, and wisdom to build not just for now, but for the generations to come. We ask that every voice shared and every idea presented be guided by your spirit of truth. Let innovation flow, let solutions arise, and let unity be your foundation. Father, forgive us for any way we may have missed the mark, and help us to extend that same grace to one another. We are stronger when we move forward together. Lead us away from complacency, lead us away from confusion, and deliver us from any obstacles that will hinder growth, equity, or progress in this city. We prophetically declare today that College Park is a city of open doors and open for business, a city of opportunity, a city of excellence, and a city where partnerships thrive for the good of the people. Let this meeting be marked by clarity, collaboration, and courage. For yours is the kingdom, yours is the power, and yours is the glory forever and ever. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Madam Chair, I'd like to call to order the meeting for of the Mayor and Council of City College Park. On our end, we have a quorum with Council Members Carn, Council Member Arnold, and myself, Mayor Pro Tem McKenzie.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next, we have the Madam Secretary to please call the BIDA roll and to advise us that we have a quorum. So we'll go around the room and I'll let everybody say their name, but I'm gonna start with myself. I'm Dr. Sabrina Miller Willis, and I'm chairperson for BIDA. And I'm gonna go to my left.
Just on the board members?
Yes, let's start. I want you to start, just continue on that.
Good evening, LaTanya Wiley, BIDA attorney.
Tracy Wyatt, BIDA member, Ward 3.
Dr. Lethea Williams, Treasury Secretary, Ward 1.
Lisa Parker, Ward 2, BIDA member.
Yana Spawner, Interim Executive Director, Gateway Campus.
Kelly Bogner, City Clerk.
Courtney Brown, Deputy City Clerk.
Winston Denmark, City Attorney.
Terry Jackson, Finance Director.
Any guess? Guess on this side, go around the room.
Holly Rodriguez, Ward 1, residential.
I just want to know everybody that's in the room.
Councilwoman Tracy Arnold, Ward 3.
Celissa Jefferson, appointee Ward 4.
Jamel McKenzie, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilwoman, Ward 1.
Olivia Dorsey, Legislative Assistant to Mayor Pro Tem McKenzie.
Dr. Emmanuel Adediran, City Manager.
Brian Hooker, Interim Economic Development Director for the City of College Park and Interim Executive Director for BIDA.
We just had Mayor Motley Broom has just entered the room. Would you announce yourself?
Bianca Motley Broom, Mayor. But
Thank
I'm
you.
a little confused because we have 2 council members present in person and a virtual council member can't count towards a quorum. So we don't have a quorum present.
In-person quorum.
We don't have an in-person quorum.
We need an in-person quorum. He's not
Yes.
in town.
We have to have a physical quorum in the room.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, that's not what I was told. Okay.
Okay, we do not. So what was that? The city does not have a quorum, but we will continue on with the meeting. Before we go on, I would like to do a little housekeeping for changes on the agenda. I want to delete item 3, additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda. I want to make a new item, number 2, approval of agenda. Review and approval of minutes will become item number 3. Everything else can remain the same. And we can move on to approve tonight's agenda. One of the things that I would like to do tonight as chair, I will announce each person, before they speak. So I'll acknowledge you before speaking. And please, we have guests on Zoom. Can you please announce yourself also?
Good morning, good afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Ed Wall. I'm the city and the BIDA's financial advisor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I thought they said that I'll jump on it then. Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda with changes that we just stated? Is there a motion?
Which one to raise our hand for you to call on us? How would that work, Madam Chair? Just
You raise
our
your hand and I'll acknowledge.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Wyatt?
I motion to approve your changes.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion?
I just
Okay.
have a question, Madam Chair. The changes to the order of the agenda topic categories, what was the purpose to change that order?
There was a reason why we decided to change.
We moved the adoption of the agenda up before the meeting started. That was the only change. It was down, it said number 3, so the chair moved it to item number 2 so that it could be the first order of official business so that we can start the meeting pursuant to that agenda. And then the approval of the minutes will flow thereafter.
Okay, and then there's not a executive session category anymore? What was the purpose of that as well? The removal of it?
So there was a place marker for an executive session, and in the event we needed one, Madam Board Member, and we do not need one, as it turns out. I sent everyone an email this morning, and hopefully that explained. If not, I'll be happy to talk to you more about that offline. But there was an anticipated need to have an executive session that did not materialize, and so there won't be a need to having anyone tonight. It's not on the agenda. It was just removed from the agenda.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? There's no discussion. All in favor? Okay. Right, can I get a show of hands? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I just want to recognize everybody, okay? Okay, any opposed? Okay, consensus that the agenda is approved. Let me go back. Hold 1 second, please. Okay, next up, we'll take a moment to look at the minutes of our March 12th meeting. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review them. If anyone needs any additional time to review, we can take a brief moment to allow that. Did anybody need to take a moment to read over the? Okay. If not, I will move forward with taking actions on this. Is there a motion to approve the March 12th minutes?
So move with corrections.
Okay.
Were there any corrections?
Okay, what corrections do you want to add?
Line 251, the discussion regarding the Price Barbershop, I don't believe it was raised by Giannis. I think that may have been Brian Hooker. Also, line 325 to 327. The actual sentence is kind of wonky. Member Celissa Jefferson said this project to me would be a great opportunity in our BIDA budget to do that separate occasion for preservation fund. The sentence actually doesn't make sense. So we need to rearrange.
Okay.
And line 508, my actual question was, where did you get the impression that the Brady Center can be moved?
Line 258?
508.
Got it.
And I have a question regarding lines 793 to 800. I'm not sure if that action is repeated. 793, the action, we have not audible in parentheses. And then the action on 798 seems to be the same movement, but I'm not sure if it is or not. So we may need to take a look at that.
Okay.
And that's it for me.
So it appears that lines 793 through 797 appear to be superfluous, and we can take those out. So 793 through 797 will be removed. That is the request. And the item regarding executive session will begin at 798, where Mayor Broom moved to approve the minutes. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Williams. Do we have a second? Have a second? Do we have a second? But this for the minutes. You wasn't here. We don't have a second.
They don't want to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Motion fails.
Motion fails to approve the minutes. Okay. At our March meeting,
You want to call for, see if there's anybody wants to make an alternate motion.
do anybody want to make an alternate motion? Excuse me, Is a reason why no approval for a second? Any reason why?
And board members, just so you know, that Georgia law requires that the following meeting, the next meeting from your last one, which would be today, that you approve the minutes of the minutes from the previous meeting. So if there is no factual or legal objection, we were just wondering what the reason was for not wanting to approve the actions taken by virtue of an approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone have any concerns about what's written and printed or the changes that were requested by Dr. Williams?
I guess what my concern is, Dr. Williams, what she had mentioned, she was asking for modifications on what was in the minutes. So if she's asking for modifications, she's not saying like there's typos. She's actually, she's trying to change the minutes. So in that case, you're not approving it because she's asking for clarification and actually paraphrasing to be changed.
I understand.
So my concern is, well, why are we approving it if she's asking for it to be changed?
And I think what I understood, and maybe we can go back and maybe have the stenographer read that, what the comments were. I believe one of the changes dealt with the wrong presenter being identified instead of the Price Barbershop matter being presented by the GICC director. It was actually presented by the Economic Development Director, your director here. And the other change, as I understood it, on lines 792 through 797, that was just superfluous language. It looks like it was just typos that the stenographer did not clean up the document perhaps inadvertently. And so it doesn't change any of the substantive portions of the minutes. It just cleans it up, having that language, unfinished language on those lines. And I cannot recall the third change.
Just a sentence structure.
Oh, so I don't remember the sentence structure. Would you like to repeat that, just to see if we need to change that? Because if it's just an awkward sentence structure, that would be a substantive change as opposed to being inaccurately stated.
325 to 327. It's simply a run-on sentence. That's what I'm
It's
saying.
just a sentence structure.
If I may, add some clarity.
Okay. Recognizing Linda, the stenographer.
Yes, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm hearing the feedback, but On the not audible part, I
We
put
can-
that in there because you did give approval and second for the affidavit, but not for the minutes taken in executive session. So.
I can't hear.
Just let me know who first and second. It just wasn't audible to me. So I didn't have it.
We're having, oh, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Hooker, we can't hear. We can't hear you. We're having difficulty hearing you.
Hey, Linda, if you turn off the speaker to your second device, that would help us out greatly here in the GICC. Right now, I see you have two devices in front of you, so if you could turn off the speaker to the second device, that way we're only hearing you on one.
Is that better? No.
Still an echo.
Take care of it in the next meeting then.
Okay, Mr. Hooker.
So what I understood the stenographer to be saying, back to line 793 through 797, is that it was not a superfluous or a typo, that there's a difference between 10A, approval of executive session minutes, and 10B, approval of executive session affidavit. So she was saying.
Is this better now? Is it better for you?
Not really, Linda, but did my rephrase of what you said, was that accurate?
Oh, maybe let me try to pipe it to you and you can tell them. Okay?
I didn't understand that.
We're still not understanding.
Okay.
She's gonna try to send
We
it.
may just have to do it in the next meeting if we have this much.
I'm gonna send it to Ryan.
So while we wait for that, I can give the correction on line 326. Instead of it stating, Member Jefferson said this project to me would be a great opportunity in our BIDA budget to do that as a separate allocation for preservation, not occasion for preservation. So that would be the change there.
So
Any other changes?
any other changes?
Madam Chair, we could just, in the event that Linda is sending things over to look at, if you want to move that to the end of the agenda, maybe to retake the motion to see if it's, everything has been cleared up, so we can hear her and understand what her concerns were. If not, then we'll just have to move it to the next meeting if we can't get to some clarification.
Okay, do we have to make a motion to do that? Just move it.
Just, yes, yes, we'll just move it to the end of the agenda and we'll take it back up to see if there has been any new events that would shed some light on some of the discrepancies. So you can just go on to the next one.
Okay, we're gonna move on and we'll move, hold on one second. Okay, Mr. Wyatt.
Madam Chair, just because we're under so much scrutiny, I'll ask you if you'd like me to open this door. I know that one is open, but should we open this one
Please open it,
just in
yes,
case?
please. We'll move the approval of the minutes to the end, and we'll go back and revisit. And, okay, the next thing is new business. At our March meeting, our BIDA attorney, Ms. Wiley, gave a full presentation on this policy. The board had a good discussion about how it would strengthen our ability to manage sensitivity information. There was a general consensus to move forward with it, so tonight, we're bringing it back for formal adoption. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve the resolution adopting the confidentiality and non-disclosure policy. We can have a discussion on this matter during the motion.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Pro Tem McKenzie. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Jefferson. Any discussion? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to say I really do appreciate this, this resolution. And as I look at it, I really would like to have my council adopt something very similar, if not word for word. It does seem to cover quite a bit and, you know, just make sure that we are not necessarily on the same page, but they were on the right page. And I just wanted to say I just really appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Wyatt.
I just like to try to understand the definition of personal relationship. It seems to be kind of broad, so that's the only thing. I mean, I briefly looked at it. I wasn't here.
You're gonna go on the conduct or the conflict of interest?
Yeah, conflict of interest, I think.
We're doing it.
I can't remember. If you just.
I'll get the next one.
Okay.
Do the next one.
We'll do the next one.
Yes, I think he was asking about the next item, so
Oh,
we'll deal with
it's
the
the next
conflicts of
one. Okay,
interest. That's that
okay.
question.
No more discussion?
And I just wanted to reiterate, Madam Chair, if I may.
turn around.
This came about, this resolution, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, came about as a result of the wonderful work that the executive director is doing in his efforts to bring new businesses. They want to ensure that there is some, they have asked him on several occasions, can you sign this NDA? And we didn't have a policy. So it's a good reason this policy came up because of the good work that he's doing. But I want to make the board aware that what this resolution does is it allows the chair to sign them in the future in consultation. You know, I'll review it. The executive director will review it so that we won't have to bring every agreement back to you all. So when Mr. Hooker is doing his business, he can seamlessly get something signed and not have to wait until the next board meeting. So if you look at the last resolve clause, it gives the chair that authority. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. And that's just for a matter of expediency. This document, once the chair signs it under the resolution, under the authority in this particular resolution, it will be binding on the entire body because she will be signing it in the capacity that you all are allowing her to do upon passage of this document. Otherwise, it will frustrate the purpose and Mr. Hooker will be having to wait until every meeting in order to continue to transact business because, and he can speak to that more so than I can, people who are doing business are really, really concerned about not having things let out too soon. Is that correct, Mr. Hooker?
Yes, Madam Attorney.
Okay, Mr. Wyatt.
So what if the executive director get with the chair and they sign something and the majority of the board disagrees with it? That's my only concern. We are a board. And that's, I don't know if that's even, I'll be very cautious with that.
So what we have here is part of the policy that we have a standard NDA. And the caution is that the BIDA attorney will look at this to see most of these, if not all of these documents are similar in nature. There's nothing that is alarming. The one thing that I have seen is that they have a provision in there that says if there is a violation of the agreement, you have to go to New York to dispute it. We always change that to Georgia. Other than that, these NDAs are pretty standard across the board. If something came across that was not standard, then I would not advise the chair to sign it. I don't think the executive director would advise the chair to sign it either. So these are just standard agreements. And the chair can do that based upon this limited delegated authority that we have. And then they'll be maintained. And if you want to have a provision that, you know, we send a copy to everyone, I think that's a good addition, that once they're signed, then we'll send them to each board member so you will have, you can be aware of what has been executed. But I think this is being asked for so that Mr. Hooker can do his job expediently and not be stalled by waiting every 30 days in order to conduct business on behalf of the board.
My only concern is we all won't be here maybe next year or the year after that. So I understand what you're saying, but I'm very hesitant still to take the authority of the board away from it. That's a slippery slope. If you can send it out after it's signed, you can send it out before it's signed. So, I mean, I don't care what the board do what they want to do, but I just wanted to bring it up. I think that's a slippery slope, especially if somebody like me get chair and they don't like me, and I go signing stuff. So I just think, that's a slippery slope.
Any other discussion?
I apologize, yes.
Okay, Ms. Jefferson.
Thank you. I concur with former Chair Wyatt. I think that disclosure will always need to be done to the board, right? And we can do that disclosure through emails. If it only pertains to confidentiality and non-disclosure NDAs, then I can understand that mission. But it says in furtherance of the mission and purpose of securing the economic development opportunity. So that piece right there is kind of vague. It leaves it open because anyone can make a decision and say, okay, well, this is confidential in nature and I feel that it's an opportunity for economic advancement and sign it, but it hasn't been disclosed to the board. So I get what former Chair Wyatt is stating, that I think that disclosure always needs to be done to the board. I recognize that we don't want to, stop the continuity of the transactions, but I think that full disclosure always needs to be done to say, okay, this is being signed and this has been signed and a copy of it is disclosed to the board.
So to take your valid concern, we could, with inserting language which states any such execution shall be immediately transmitted by the board members and be binding upon them, consistent with the provisions of this policy. This is a very limited authority that's done. If the will of the board to have more than one person sign off on it, the chair and the vice chair, the chair and the executive director, if you want to have a dual signature, then that could be something you want to discuss amongst yourselves. But I think in the past month, Mr. Hooker has had at least 3, I believe, NDAs where he's in the middle of doing business negotiations with folks on important matters, and he can't because he's not authorized to sign the NDA. And the chair is not authorized to sign the NDA in the absence of express delegated authority by this body. And I know that has happened at least 3 times. I know I've sent him emails on that. And so this was a way for us to sort of obviate that problem and be careful by having the BIDA attorney review it to ensure that it's not something that's untoward, that is consistent with normal and routine agreements. So the last clause can be revised with language that could possibly satisfy the concerns, the very valid concerns raised tonight.
Any other discussion, or do we want to do a revision on that? On the language? Okay, Dr. Williams.
To continue in the vein of Vice Chair Wyatt and Member Jefferson, I do believe there are times when we have required consensus and done it through email. So there's a way for us to communicate, or at least the chair and the economic development director to communicate to the rest of the board what's going on. So maybe if we could put language in there where if, say, we're trying to be timely with a contract and it's not, the 30-day wait for the next meeting might be too much, maybe we should include language here where we can get the consensus of the board without having to meet. So email, Zoom, whatever it is, but maybe we need to have that language included.
Thank you. The gaining consensus outside of a formal public meeting to take official action would be not in violation of the Open Meetings Act. So it requires everything to be done open and upfront. So I do believe that it's appropriate to let everyone know that it's going to be signed or is signed. Either we take that out and we go back and we stay with the status quo, or this document that's being publicly discussed and debated and perhaps voted upon is the public, satisfies the public nature of the Open Meetings Act requirement. So we could not get consensus behind the scenes, for lack of a better phrase.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, just in terms of clarity, I thought the purpose of this, the main purpose of this particular document is so that the executive director can conduct business without having to have a full meeting every time so that we can move forward with what we're doing. So I think that we still need to put this in place. And if anything, in terms of disclosure, that the executive director just needs to let the board members be aware of, through disclosure, to let the board members know what has been done. But having to get board member approval and go through, because sometimes you'll send, even through the email process, you'll send an email, people don't get back. And you're waiting a week and 2 weeks and you still haven't heard, and waiting to the next meeting so that he can do business. I think that's the key. And if we find that the process is not, the beautiful thing about resolutions and all these types of legal paperwork, that we can change it. So if there's something that will satisfy the board that may need to be added in here, but I think the key is that we release the executive director to be able to conduct business on behalf of BIDA and the chair. But that the executive director understands that still there is a reporting that needs to be given and disclosed to the board.
And Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, Attorney
I
Wiley.
thought of a solution that possibly would resolve the concerns about being notified, publicly notified and formally notified. So in addition to adding the insertion that upon execution, that document shall be immediately transmitted to members of the board, we could also have a provision that said at the very next board meeting, it'll be ratified by the entire board. Would that satisfy it?
Yeah.
That will be, it will be after the fact, but still, it'll be a formal ratification.
Yes.
That'll satisfy me.
You good? Okay.
It doesn't tie us in.
So at the very next meeting, regularly scheduled meeting, that executed agreement shall be presented to the full board for ratification and approval. That's the additional.
I like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have to put a second again?
I think you had a second.
You had a second, okay. No more, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we'll take up the Code of Conduct policy. This matter was also presented last month by the attorney. The board had a robust conversation about setting expectations for behavior, accountability, and how we handle potential conflicts of interest. The consensus was to proceed, so we're here tonight to take action to make it official. I now ask for a motion to approve the resolution adopting the Code of Conduct policy.
I'd like to make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem McKenzie. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Jefferson. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Wyatt.
Package per 37 on the conflict of interest. It said, I'm just trying to get an understanding of what it says. On the example of conflict of interest include but not limited to, under the second bullet, it says family or personal relationship. I mean, boyfriend, girlfriend, you dating, what is that? What is personal relationship? That's just so broad.
Okay, Attorney Wiley.
That is, I agree, that is a broad term. And it's not otherwise defined here. So I think it would be appropriate to take that out, or if we can have so I think you're right. I know you're right. And so let's take that out to remove any ambiguity. Familial relationships, maybe business, family or business relationships, probably should be instead of personal. I think it would be the appropriate substitution. Would that satisfy your concern?
Business relationship.
And even under state law, the definition of family has some limitations to it too. So just know that this policy will be interpreted going forward in conjunction with what state law already defines as personal relationships or familial relationships. I'm sorry, and that will be the guide. So this was supposed to be an example, but I think it should be removed to put business here instead of personal.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I
Molly
think
Broom.
that excuse me, that there should be some definition section that's actually clearly laid out, that if we are relying upon state law, then that is actually clearly spelled out in the document. That's true.
I can certainly take that under advisement and make that change and bring it back if it's the will of the board and tighten all that up with the definitions or the referenced statutory provision that will be used as a guide for this. So if it's the will of the board, I can take it back and tinkle with it some more.
Okay, so we're gonna hold off.
If it's the will of the board to table until whatever you all would like to do.
So we'll take a vote, and you'll,
Yes, a motion to approve it. So
okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair,
Motion
what are we-
passes.
Or what are we voting on?
The code of conduct.
there was a motion and a second to approve it.
Right.
So that's what was just voted on. There was not a motion to revise that, the motion, or amend it to take your concern into consideration.
I'm a little confused now.
So there was a motion to approve this policy. There was second, there was discussion. The discussion took your concerns, and I believe that Mayor Pro Tem did not revise her motion.
No, I didn't revise the motion, but you did change the personal to business. That's what I think the vice chair was, that part was in, that was the part. But in terms of definitions and all that other stuff, no, I wasn't trying to go there.
Okay, motion passes.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
the
Mr.
stenographer needs to know who voted, how everybody voted.
Okay, raise your hands again to everybody who voted. We have Mayor Pro Tem, we have Ms. Jefferson. Who else voted for it?
No, because we're not really clear what just happened.
Okay, when you take another vote on this one? But they said they're not clear, we voted.
I can say the motion again. My motion
Okay.
is to accept this resolution with the change from personal relationships to business. And that's it.
And that was the second.
And she seconded.
Seconded? Yes.
Okay, we don't have to do any more discussion.
And then Attorney Nix responded to the mayor's request. So what's gonna be included? Like, we need the entire motion so we can hear what we're voting on.
Okay.
I gave the entire motion. The motion is to accept the resolution with the change from personal relationships to business relationships. I have not included anything else in that motion.
The mayor asked for a definition, a section with definition. So let's have the entire motion so we'll know what we're voting on.
And you,
That is the entire motion. I'm not including anything beyond that in the motion.
There was no motion to revise, or the person who made the motion did not move to revise the motions to take into account the mayor's concern. So as written, it passed as the motion was pending. And again, you can always come back if you want to, change it or to make it better, but the motion that was on the table passed.
It did pass.
Okay, motion passed. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Hooker?
Madam Chair, a point of order.
Okay, again, we need to clarify for the stenographer who voted for and who. We just got to vote again for the stenographer to know, because she's not here.
You just
Okay,
have to show who voted.
show her hands. Okay, we have Mayor Pro Tem, we have Ms. Jefferson, you have Ms. Williams, and you have myself, Dr. Williams.
And Ms. Parker. Ms. Parker.
I'm sorry, Ms. Parker, I apologize. I'm sorry, Ms. Parker, I apologize. Any opposed? Any opposed? Who opposed? The motion passes with 4 votes. Okay.
They abstain. Call for the abstention.
Oh, would it be considered abstention?
If they abstain.
Do you abstain? Okay, and abstain by,
No. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. My apologies. No.
you voted yes?
Yes.
Okay, Tracy Wyatt voted yes. Dr. Williams, and Dr. Williams abstained.
As did I.
And I'm sorry, and Mayor Motley Broom abstained. Motion passed. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda, we're moving up for the GICC update. And as always, it's good to hear what's happening at the GICC, which continues to be an anchor in this community and economic landscape. So, Mr. Varner.
Thank you and good evening. To give you a revenue update year to date, the GICC total revenue is 11.7 million, with the total expenses is 11.2. With the arena revenues, it's 5.4 million, with a total expense of 5.6. The total revenue for the golf course is 470,000, with total expense of 526,000. At the total, you can see the adopted, that we are 65% of the GICC adopted budget, 75% of the arena adopted budget, and 60% of the golf course adopted budget for the 24-25 fiscal year. Some of the highlights for March was Groom D, the Afro South Focus HBCU Fair was awesome. Provoke Conference, Spirit of the South, Coca-Cola Scholar, SWAC Basketball, Love Beat Basketball, and the season for the Skyhawks. They ended the season in a 17-17 record, which they did not make the playoff, but they had a great season. Great revenue from the Skyhawks this year. Upcoming events is the 2025 Masters National, Georgia Fit Expo. We just concluded Microsoft Global AI, which was in revenue total just for food and beverage was over 236,000. ThriftCom, and at the end of the month, we will have World Natural Hair Beauty Show. And Black Prime will end the month for the arena, which is a boxing match. Also, just a little bit of in-kind service. We're a little year-to-date over 83,000 of in-kind service that is done by the city. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Any questions? And Mr. Varner, thanks for all that you do, here at the GICC and the give back, and we appreciate and everything that you do.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay, and right now, let's hear from our real estate broker for an update on development opportunities to see where their momentum and how we can continue to leverage our assets. This will be a discussion item only. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hooker will introduce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are looking to be open for business and to increase what we're able to do to advance economic development in the city of College Park. One of the things that I've noticed is that we are in a reactive posture. We have properties that are available, and we're technically just waiting for the phone to ring. So we have a great commercial real estate brokerage team. I reached out to them and I said, propose me something. Look at the assets that we have and identify low-hanging fruit project that, if marketed, could move quickly. And today's presentation is a result of them looking into the assets we have and letting us know what it would take to proactively market a key asset. And so I'm excited that they're presenting it. I'm very grateful that Councilmember Arnold is here because this opportunity is in her ward. And with that, I turn it over to Phyllis and Nicole.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you, Brian, for that. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members, BIDA Chair and BIDA board members. We appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. Like Brian said, he reached out to us and he asked us to assess BIDA's real estate holdings and identify some development opportunities that could have a meaningful impact on College Park's economic growth and quality of life. I'm truly excited about what we discovered because within those holdings is a prime opportunity to create a thriving mixed-use, transit-oriented development hub that brings a lot of value to the residents of College Park and visitors as well. We only have about 15 minutes, so what we're going to do is we're going to briefly discuss what a transit-oriented development, or TOD, as they call it, is, and its key characteristics. We're going to show a little quick video of an example of a TOD. We're going to discuss the 20-acre opportunity that we've identified here in College Park, review some land pricing, and discuss a marketing plan, and then open it up for questions. Okay, so first things first, what is a transit-oriented development, or TOD? This is an urban planning approach that concentrates jobs, housing, services, and amenities that are near and around a public transportation hub. Its characteristics is that it promotes walkability, bike access, mixed uses like residential, retail, and office together. It reduces car dependency, and it usually requires retail or office on the ground floor with residences above it. Very often, a percentage is allocated for affordable and workforce housing options. One big example that we know about, everybody knows about, is Atlantic Station is a TOD, right? Kensington is a TOD, and we'll show you an example. Now, here's the good news. College Park has already designated this area as a TOD district. And so their goal is that it's going to be used to lessen automobile dependency, foster a sense of community, and maximize the use of the available land. Next, we are going to look at an example. Yep. Do we have audio? You want to stop, pause that?
Do we have?
Oh, go back. Oh. That's affordable housing right there. Okay. So if that looks impressive, it's because it really is. As you just seen in the video, Chamblee has successfully transformed its downtown area by embracing transit-oriented development. The integration of residential spaces above retail and office establishments, along with amenities like Whole Foods and restaurants, has created a vibrant, walkable community. And College Park has a similar opportunity here. This is a 20-acre assemblage, and this assemblage is located east of Main Street. It's in a prime location. It's 5 minutes, as we know, from the world's busiest airport, direct access to the MARTA, connections to I-85, 285, and 75. The part of this site that encompasses the 20 acres primarily runs along Princeton Avenue, and as you can see, it has 3 different zonings that support a TOD. I'll just briefly talk about it. You have in the yellow, the transit-oriented development zoning. That means retail or office is on the ground floor and residential above. You have in the blue, a planned development zoning that allows for a diverse mix of housing types like townhomes, condos, apartments, and even single-family homes. The hospitality campus zoning is in red. We know that the Hotel Indigo is over there, so that supports hotels, restaurants, and event venues. So this is an opportunity to design a district where people can live, work, shop, and stay, all within walking distance of a transit. We sought out Councilwoman Tracy, and she was very gracious in sharing her thoughts for the area as we wanted to get her buy-in. She shared that her constituents had concerns with the parking here, as currently the parking is pretty bad, and that home ownership is an important goal for her in this community. Because of Todd's goal is to reduce car dependency, we think parking could be improved with a Todd. Should the city move to develop this site, we recommend structured parking options and shared use parking strategies be implemented so that the need for on-street parking is limited. We also recommend encouraging developers to include homeownership options like townhomes and condos, as well as rentals within the site as allowable, just to ensure that there's a diverse range of affordable housing options for everyone in the community. We did a BOV, which is a broker opinion of value, and based on today's data, we recommend a sale price of $150,000 to $250,000 per acre, depending on the use and the zone that the TOD falls in. So that equates to like just $3 to $5 million in revenue. But the true long-term value is really going to be in the ongoing tax revenues that you get. So, for example, a developer invests, I don't know, I'm just throwing out figures, like $100 million investment. Well, then the city would generate $2 million or more in tax revenues every year. And so that can be used to further increase and improve the quality of life here, infrastructure. It'll fuel so much development within the city. And it's going to attract even more development, right? Once everyone sees the development. So in closing, this TOD opportunity can create a walkable, vibrant district that includes shops, dining, housing, hospitality, and public spaces all together and all near transit. Next, my partner, Phyllis, she's going to share our marketing strategy and budget for promoting the site, and then we'll open it up for questions.
I'm going to start passing those out, Nicole. Yeah, I can click for a minute. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Good evening to you all. In respect to the time, our limited time here this evening, we just kind of want to, what's going on right now is that Nicole is passing out our marketing plan. Our goal is to provide the best and the top-notch marketing for the proposed TOD. So as you turn it, once you receive your copies, you can follow along with me here. Our goal as commercial brokers is to provide the best marketing that we can. And it is required in order to make this a successful venture. Marketing, as you all know, is very vital to any development. So what we've done is that we've strategized and came up with different things that we feel, steps, packages, site plans, website, signage. These are all vital and essential to our marketing plan. The next page, as you know, everything is online. Online exposure. Anyone that's in the real estate field, they're already online looking for what they want. Okay, they're not coming in expecting you to know all. They're coming in because they've already had the exposure online. They know what they're looking for. And so our strategy here are essential list of promotional guidelines that as commercial brokers that we will utilize, that we need to make this a win-win for everybody. Next, you have the due diligence items. Like Nicole mentioned, we did the broker opinion of value to come up with the land price, okay? You can get the broker opinion of value within 24 hours as opposed to an appraisal, waiting on the appraisal. 24, 72 hours, and depending on the use and what we're using, what we're working on, we can even give it back in an hour or two, okay? Being realistic, maybe more of a day. No. Nicole says no. All right, surveys. Well, we need to know the boundaries, right? We need to know what we're working with, and so surveys are required and very necessary. Environmental phase reports, they're important. Title reports, we need to know if there's any easement, any complications, okay? And next is a slide of showcase city offering to target developers. These are events, promotion events that as brokers that we attend, we recommend attending to showcase the TOD. The ISCS, the National Association of Industrial Office Park, ULI is the Urban Land Institute. These are all events that help promote a venture development. And networking, direct outreach is to target the developers. The broker receptions, some of us have attended those. Those are very important. That's when the house is full of brokers and you are showcasing what you are trying to target and get them to invest in. College Park had a bus tour. I happened to be on that bus tour. That's something that is very important, and we toured the 6 West, and I believe I got off when we came back and the bus went farther south. But that's very important to the development. Now, our total proposed marketing budget, it's a lot that we need to do. It's a lot that we need to share. And it's important that we share and provide every possible venture to work with investors, developers. And so our total estimated budget, you see it right there. And it's the real dollar amount for us to do all that we can do to make this a success.
Phyllis, would you read the amount for the stenographer?
Yes, 35,200 to 64,000.
So noted.
And why is there a range? The range is so that depending on what we need to do, what you expect us to do, what you support us doing, that's why we gave you a range. Okay? And thank you very much. All righty.
Yeah, we'll take questions. Just wanted to expound a little bit in that there is a range because at this juncture, we would work with economic development to see what on the list of items that they want to do. Each item, there's kind of levels to it. You know, you can have a website that's just like very basic, or you can have a fully fleshed out website that, you know, has all the deliverables that a developer needs, you know, drones. So sometimes our clients want more, sometimes they want less. So the ultimate dollar amount will come down to what economic development wants done with the site and authorizes us to do. Any questions?
Madam Chair, I just,
Okay.
Mr. Wyatt.
I've said in a lot of presentations, especially from these two grades, and I just simply want to say that it's probably one of the best presentations you guys have ever done.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you. That is, we've been doing this for a few years now, so I remember my first time in front of Tracy, and he was like, oh God, it's too long.
To the point.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was talking fast. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Motley-Brown.
So in regard to the broker opinion of value versus an appraisal, while it gives you something faster, it doesn't necessarily supersede that, correct?
Correct.
Let me answer that. It depends what you have to do with it.
Okay.
A broker opinion value is very respected. Now, if you're doing a federal transaction, like a federal lending transaction, they must use appraisals. You would need an appraisal for stuff like that. But this is a tool that is used by the top organizations because our training is very similar and close. I myself, I'm a state registered appraiser now, which just means I still have to do 1,000 hours training under someone. But I'm saying that we use the same methodology.
Understood.
And it's cheaper because I don't have the credentials, so you're kind of getting a deal.
And I think Chambly's a great example. I was up there last.
I saw your video. We saw it afterwards. Like we were like, oh my God, she was over there.
I tried to throw it in there, but we said that.
Yeah, absolutely. The mayor was kind enough to spend a half a day with me walking around in Chambly and showing all the great stuff. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was their emphasis on smaller businesses, on local businesses. Yes, on Peachtree, there's some larger, more established national ones, but certainly when you get off the MARTA line, there's an emphasis on folks who may only have that particular brick and mortar.
Yep.
The bagel company is amazing, and they started off at the farmer's market down the street. So there's been a real emphasis on trying to nurture local talent and a great integration with public art. Chambly has made an amazing investment in public art.
Yeah, when we went over there, it's very charming that it's not like this big commercial, like all commercial stores. I mean, like you said, they have some, but they did a good work getting the communities tie-in. And by the time we left, Phyllis was like, I want to move here.
That was me speeding in the car.
Yeah, I was hanging out the window to get you the video.
Hanging out the window
Yes.
recording. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Hooker, hold on. You want to go first? Hold on one second. Yeah.
No, I defer to.
Okay, Councilwoman Arnold.
So can we go back to the map?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh, absolutely.
In reference to the map. And this is the first time I'm seeing the map. It was sent to me at noon today. And I just want to make sure that the colors are accurate.
The colors?
Correct. Because I think that we mentioned that the Todd is the yellow section, planned development is blue, and then red is hospitality campus, right?
I'm glad you brought that up.
I
So,
don't- Could that be, the colors be off there? And the reason why I'm asking is because there's a whole subdivision back there. If we develop something there, how would people get to it?
I think that would be for the developer to flesh out.
Engineers,
Yeah, we're definitely not engineers, but the layout, I think if I'm looking at it right, I do see the subdivision.
Right, there's a subdivision.
Yeah.
There is no ease of access to that area. There's no main thoroughfare. So that would be a major concern, right? I mentioned to you all when we talked yesterday about narrow streets and public safety. That area is the area that I was speaking of.
Yeah. So, typically, and I think that even occurred on the 6 West site, roads are created when you're doing a development. And so, they're going to take that into consideration because they can't block anybody, from ingress and egress. So that's a valid concern. And, if you guys move forward with the site, that would be something that a developer would have to, take into consideration in his plan.
Okay, Mr. Hooker's going to speak next.
And I'm glad we're here in front of council because the first time I looked at this site, I questioned why Hospitality Campus was chucked over in the corner.
Right, it doesn't make sense.
I can't see, I could see an incredible TOD maybe generating demand for a boutique hotel that wants to be along it, but all of that being Hospitality Campus is a little bit of a stretch. So we'd like you as council to revisit that. And
Understood.
yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And nothing's etched in stone. This is all just for us to put our heads together and make it a win-win for everyone.
Okay, I have one more.
Myself, yeah.
And it's not
Okay.
just hotels, by the way. It looks like the zoning supports restaurants and event venues and retail. And so there's a couple of options. Like what I like about the 3 different zonings within this site is it allows so many flexible uses. I didn't even list it all. I don't want to bore you. But there are a lot of uses within these 3. I don't see a problem going forward if you guys went forward. It's workable.
Okay.
And to address your parking concern as well.
I'm definitely concerned about the
and
parking.
I know that.
Right.
I know that,
Right.
and we
Well, I'm
appreciate that.
not going to say so much of the parking, but the fact that the streets are narrow and the emergency units passing through those streets,
You mentioned.
especially getting over to the senior community.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And so I'm going to, continue to mention that.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I don't think that that was well thought out for the community that I live in, which is that subdivision we're talking about, and safety concerns when emergency vehicles need to get through the streets.
And a lot of these, almost, if not all, are land. There's not really, there's a few structures, of course, here along this, like we know the FAA building and things like that, but especially along Princeton Street. I mean, that's like mostly land. So.
Okay, you have.
Myself? Okay,
Mayor Pro Tem, let's go. Let's go.
First of all, ladies, I want to thank you. That was a wonderful presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I absolutely love the idea, the concept of what we're looking at in terms of developing the TOD. I say TOD. Again, and I would love to see this in Ward 3. And so a lot of it is going to be working with economic development and Councilwoman Arnold. I support it. I think we have to work it out, but love it. I think we need it. It brings more diversity of housing to the city and to her ward in particular. I wanted to kind of comment on the range, and I think it's reasonable. And so I don't know if that's a decision that we're supposed to be entertaining right now, but when I just think, just for everybody to think about, whether it's 35 or 64 or somewhere in between, when you look at a property that we will possibly sell for $3.2 million, have $100 possible $1 million project, $2 million or $2.5 million coming to the city as a result in tax revenue, 35 to 64,000 is nothing. So just in terms of people that might be looking at, whoa, that's a lot of money.
Right.
We're not going to be a penny short. What is it? What did you say, Dr. Anna? A penny wise and a pound short. Okay. Pound foolish. Okay. So, but thank you so much. And we just appreciate you, ladies. Appreciate you being with us all these years. And we're looking to make something amazing happen. Thank you for staying the course with us.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good night.
Appreciate you.
I just have one question.
Okay, Ms. Jefferson?
Yes, I piggyback what Mayor Pro Temp McKenzie just said. I commend you ladies for this presentation. I just have one question in regards to the 20 acres. Are we clear on full ownership of those acreage, that acreage?
Yeah,
Okay.
we didn't run title reports, but we did search through to see if we saw anything that conflicted, and BIDA owns all of it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, which is pretty outstanding.
Yeah, that's excellent.
That's
And then
a lot.
my
Mhm.
second, it's not a comment, in reference to your brokers open in your marketing strategy,
Mhm.
is it possible, that we can do that in conjunction with 6 West? Because I think that it'd be excellent opportunity to have that brokers open and have all the brokers compete to bring us the necessary business and clients for these projects.
I love that idea. I would like it that I think it's efficient, right? Like, why have a brokers open and only show one city property? So I would definitely embrace that. And if we, as far as the conferences that Phyllis was talking about, where you go, you set up a booth, you meet up with developers, that's something that we could do in conjunction with economic development. Like, we can all go out there, talk to the developers together, or if you guys would prefer that we would go set up a booth, take the city listings, and then meet with each developer and pitch the opportunities. And so, it's a great thing to do because all developers converge in like one spot, and we can find out who does what and just match the property to them. So it's a really efficient use of time. But yes, we would definitely, when we do a brokers open, I think it would be more efficient, yes, to show everything.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Dr. Williams?
Is the broker's opinion of value, when that number comes in, is it usually close to what the appraised value would have been?
Yes and no. So I have got into, I have a lot of respect for appraisers. There's a lot of good ones out there, especially the certified appraisers. Every now and then, though, the comps that they pull are just not realistic. Like, they will pull comps that is in Roswell, and we're like, it's not relevant. How'd you get this value? So I think that it has its place. Just like the broker opinion value, there's certain things that, we have clients that request it, and they use it in their decision-making. The price for the broker opinion value, of course, is a lot less than a certified appraisal, but the range typically comes from how simple the project is. We could do one property. We could do a portfolio and value it. You know, we can do large, complex shopping centers. So it just depends, but it's always, I think, waiting 3 weeks sometimes to make a decision is something that clients kind of struggle with when they need it fast. They can't wait like 3 weeks or, 30 days. So I think it's a great tool. I'm seeing it. I think I've done since January, probably 6 already for different companies. So it's a big useful tool.
And that's why we usually give a range. That's
Yeah.
very important, giving that range, because it's not a very precise, so you've got a range to work within.
Yeah, like you would see, what she means by that is like we never say a finite number. We'll say the number falls between this and this, depending on different options. You know what I mean? And we'll explain. We'll always go into detail. I think you guys saw in a broker opinion of value that we did for Brian. I was saying that the site that we were looking at, we had to discount it by 25% because there were deed restrictions that were impactful to development that wouldn't be on another site that a developer could consider. And so we just do things like that.
So is that, in your professional opinion, would the broker's opinion be a better tool to go by? Not just for time, but generally speaking, would it be a better tool?
In general, for what we're doing here together, I think yes. Again, if it's, it depends. Like that's what we always say in real estate. It depends. But like I said, as long as it's not a federally transaction, like they're getting a federal loan, there are certain instances where regulations only allow an appraisal, but that's not what we're doing here. So broker opinion value is definitely the way to go.
Okay, Mr. Hooker had one to weigh in on this.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Broker opinions of value are extremely useful for economic development purposes. In working in municipal government, there's oftentimes a big focus on appraisals, and they are crucial. They're crucial for lenders. They're crucial for eminent domain. They're crucial for, as our broker said, federal type projects. But they are not flexible enough to accommodate the needs of the economic development profession all the time. So in all of my roles over the last 25 years, I've relied on broker opinion value to make decisions, such as Nicole mentioned, a broker opinion of value was provided for what was discussed at the last BIDA meeting, I believe, Project Extra, to make sure that what we were considering passed the sniff test. And so that range was very helpful and gave me confidence in making a recommendation to you all as a board, which you then were able to adopt. So they're just very valuable tools, and I'm grateful that we have this caliber of broker that can provide them. Not all brokers provide outstanding BOVs. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
Now we're going to move into our 2025 budget discussion. And who's going to help to lead this?
That'll be me, Madam Chair, with backup from Ed. Ed, you still on the line?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So could we go to the budget slide? So thank you all for being here for this joint meeting where we get to talk about things that are relevant not only to BIDA, but also to you as council. We're grateful that you are here to join us in these discussions. As you're aware, the staff led by Dr. Adediran and our great finance director, Terry Jackson, are leading us through the budget cycles. I've seen your giant budget binders getting ready to be handed to you all. And so tonight, we just wanted to talk about a small sliver of that budget, which is for BIDA. So you have in your packet the budget worksheet report that was generated that you can refer to as we go through this. But there were a couple of things we wanted to start off with before we jump into that. And first, the budget recognizes a fund for BIDA that it's called the Redevelopment Authority Fund. But that fund, correct me if I'm wrong, that fund doesn't have money in it. But on a report that you all get on a regular basis, you see this data. Whenever Ed generates his report, there's a line in there that says fund owes other funds. So the Redevelopment Authority Fund from BIDA owes these other funds: the electric fund, the arena fund, water and sewer fund, and general fund. And so I'm sure all of you have heard that BIDA owes the city over $9 million. Well, this is what that's talking about. And with that, Ed, if you would elaborate a little bit on how these funds came to be owed money by BIDA, I would appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So I think it's probably accumulated over the last 20 years. And there'd be some transactions, some land that needed to be purchased. And the city's general fund would appropriate money to BIDA to buy that. And the finance department would account for it as a due to, due from, like a loan. And so it hit a max, I think, of around 13 million right before COVID. And as you sold property, Northside Hospital, various other pieces of property, that amount has been reduced. We had been hoping to sell property in 6 West for years, and we would never sell it. And so the auditors about 4 years ago made us start reducing the amount owed by $500,000 a year, whether we sold any property or not. So this amount's been reduced from 13 million down to 9,704,000. Why it's all these different funds, at whatever time the city appropriated money for whatever project was at hand, they would take the money from whatever project was at hand. And so a lot of these funds that you see that we owe money to, it's money owed from probably that fund back to the general fund itself. And so the city is nothing you all did wrong or y'all did bad, or, you know, BIDA exists, and Brian really has helped trying to make sure we get this across. There's almost 2 businesses at BIDA. One, y'all act as conduit for the city for all the projects that the city does and the issuance of debt that the city does. That's one business, is a conduit. Then there's the other business, economic development, that you all handle yourself. And forever.
And we're going to go further into that in a subsequent slide.
Right. And so forever, the books and records of the authority, and notice the auditors call you not the BIDA fund, but the Redevelopment Authority Fund. And everything's been mashed together, and it's hard to make those 2 businesses look different. And so just over time, one project, another project, over 20 years, these amounts have become due to the various different funds. And it had been our policy that whenever we sold property, we would take the proceeds from the sale of that property and pay these amounts back.
Now, Ed, there's another way that these amounts are being reduced as well, and you mentioned it, the $500,000 a year, but in effect, is the auditor requiring this debt, when it's not paid back, to be written off as bad debt?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we have here is a declining balance that BIDA owes, and in some ways, it's a function of how are we accounting for the monies that flow through BIDA, but in other ways, you know, bad debt is not necessarily what we'd like to see being reported by our auditors and them writing down debt amounts. So after we talk about the budget, the next topic that we're introducing is to try to come up with some sort of solution to really document a way to systematically address this. So on our next slide, this is the actual budget request that was made, and that's on the form that you have. The form you have shows a history. It shows actual from 2023, 2024, the 2025 amended budget, and it also shows what the department head requested, and that was me, and stumbling and bumbling trying to find my way around New World. And then the final column, 2026 city manager recommended. These are the numbers that came after we had our initial budget meeting with the finance team and the city manager, and myself and Madam Chair were able to attend that. So the final column is what we are currently requesting for fiscal year 26, which starts in July 1st. And we want to share that with you so that you all could give your feedback to council while we have the benefit of council being here. So these are at the summary level, the income. BIDA has lots of income coming in from payment in lieu of taxes. Income that was projected for land sales, but as you can see, our 2025 actual is falling far below what was projected before. This number, however, reflects the fact that we've got, BIDA has been making significant progress in keeping certain development projects in place and on track. And so this is a good-looking number for fiscal 26. Actually, ultimately, we will do better than that, but some of that money includes transactions that I expect to close before July 1, so that could impact that number as well, and we need to take another look at it. BIDA has other rental income, and that other rental income from ground leases is spoken for. So the pilot income is spoken for, land sales are not. The other income is spoken for, the federal grants. Then you have this line item, miscellaneous income, $1.127 million. That's not spoken for. Then you have restricted interest that's spoken for. And then you have these funds that generate these taxes that you're familiar with and the transfers in that are also spoken for. So when I say spoken for, Ed described BIDA as potentially two separate business models. One is a conduit on behalf of the city where bonds are issued and commitments are made, and all the funds that come in from the, all the funds that come in on these line items are spoken for. They're already allocated. They're not something that BIDA could choose to spend. However, some of the rental income, and I'm not really going to account for that later, and the miscellaneous income, most of the miscellaneous income is currently not restricted. So we'll dig a little further into what that means later, but now let's look at the expenses. So BIDA's expenses last year, the 2025 amended budget had expenses in for personnel costs. Those were removed in the consultation with the city manager for this year. You can see that the training and education is an important line item. Other services and charges, that includes legal, not only our BIDA attorney, but the other attorneys that we use for title search, et cetera. Then there's a big line item called contingencies. And as best I was able to figure out, that is the line item that we use to balance the revenues with the expenses. And there may be another way in terms of sending a transfer to BIDA's reserve or the redevelopment funds account. So we want to look at that. Material and supplies, and then land purchase costs is an estimate as well. And then the debt service. So that $6.7 million is the monies that we have to pay on the various bonds that have been issued And so that's why BIDA's budget, if you look at the bottom, it says $18.4 million. It looks like a huge amount, but the reality of what is actually money that BIDA is generating from an economic development standpoint is lesser. So here is my attempt to take our unrestricted income, and I limit it in this case to miscellaneous income, even though there's probably $400,000 in our rental income that's technically unrestricted. There may be some items that are being classified as miscellaneous income that might be restricted. So to balance it out, we said, okay, we'll just stick with this number. So BIDA generates unrestricted revenues of approximately $1.1 million. And if you look at BIDA's expenses, from personnel costs to training and education to other services and materials and supplies, so this leaves out the debt and it leaves out the real estate, you can see that BIDA generates $1.1 million and spends $800,000, which is a net of about $300,000 to the good. And that $300,000 goes back into the city coffers right now, rather than being used to build up a reserve fund or do something else that could directly further economic development. So that concludes kind of going over the budget, and what we wanted to have this conversation specifically to piggyback on the broker presentation, because within the there's a breakdown of line items under convention and meetings and sales and marketing, where the convention and meetings totals up to a recommended $68,000, and the sales and marketing totals up to a recommended $65,400. Now, the $65,400 was a number that we came up with before our wonderful broker team had finished putting together their analysis, and now that $64,000 is at the high end of one approach. We were thinking this would be the first one, and then there might be another parcel that gets the equal marketing treatment that the brokers just described today. So we might want to take a closer look at the $65,400 that falls under the, yes, that falls under those line items 52-6230 and 52-6231 on the reports that you have in your packets. So one concept of this was to make sure that we are right-sizing the budget to accomplish what you all collectively as the city and as BIDA want us to accomplish from an economic development standpoint. The other was to make sure that we start to address this bad debt situation by coming up with an agreement between BIDA and the city that speaks to how revenues that come in are specifically allocated. For example, when BIDA makes a property sale for $1.5 million, right now, all of that goes straight to the city. And perhaps some of that should be used explicitly to pay down debt. Perhaps some of it would eventually be used to build up a reserve fund. These are things that I wanted to hear from you and get guidance from you, my leaders, mayor and council and BIDA, on how you would like the city manager and finance and us to address the financial flows for BIDA. So that concludes the budget report, and open for questions that anyone may have about the budget. Budget request.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Ms. Jefferson?
Yes. So I have a comment and a question. Going forward for the packets, if we can have the printout landscape, because it's very hard to read in this fine print.
My apologies for that.
No problem.
Yes, we will.
No problem. So my other question, I have two more. My second question is, for training and education, you said that our expenses last year was close to 82,000?
We've spent close to 82,000 for fiscal '25 thus far. So starting at July 1 of 2024 through today,
Through today.
we've spent $81,000.
If we can have the treasurer to provide us, I guess, an itemized list of what compromises that number. I'm trying to understand what was the education and training for, because last year we only took the Savannah, the BIDA conference.
Right.
But what else would be making up that number? Then my third comment is this. I think that it's just very critical that I know that an IGA agreement, we're going to discuss this on the next topic, but my concern with the IGA agreements is this. At the end of the day, all of this revenue and funding comes from the city, not to BIDA. So I really want us to really hone in, make this, ABC 1, 2, 3 level. These are taxpayer dollars, and this is commercial development dollars on behalf of the city. Our critical word in our charter is we are a conduit, due to, due from. It's a reclassification. As activity happens, comes in, our director of finance, under the governance, accounting policies and procedures, is going to maintain the transactions accordingly to meet our audit requirements. I don't think that BIDA should necessarily become involved in this budget management. Here's why. It's because we are a conduit, and the city provides us our budget. So with mayor and council and that governance, and if we would concentrate on doing our core purpose, which is to promote, sell, and develop land, then our debt ratios would definitely significantly increase. I think that we have enough policy and procedures in place through our charter, our bylaws, and our SOP, enough policy. And I think that the director of finance with the city and the way BIDA has been conducting business since 1980, it's enough. I recognize that you may need, drill downs of different allocation funds, but the core of the way this is working, I think that is legitimate for now because BIDA has not sold the land that's needed to pay down our debt. And that's our core responsibility. And I think that, if we concentrate there, last year we had an opportunity with a developer to pay $32 million. We didn't go with that as a board. So we have to understand, as we continue to pass up engagements and opportunities, that debt is going to remain there. But it's a conduit. It's a due to, due from. As revenues come in, they get allocated. As they go out, they get reallocated. So I think that the city governance has enough policy and procedure to account for the accounting regulations and policies and the way our budget is maintained. But I do think that we don't have enough disclosure and transparency and drill downs of what is making up this cost. Because like I said, for training and education to already be at 82,000, and only training that I'm aware of is the BIDA conference that we had last year. So where else is funding being paid for that? So I think that maybe in our meetings, we may need more itemized detail of what's making up these expenses, because they are growing significantly due to the fact that we're not selling as nearly fast enough land. But I do think that overall, we just have more than enough policies and procedures and accounting regulations through the city to maintain how the budgets have been accounted for.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jefferson. Okay, Mr. Booker.
Ms. Jefferson, training and education is the budgetary heading for a group of line items that you will find on your package, page 49. Near the top of that page, yes, it's in portrait. Forgive me for that. I have to whip out my readers to see it. But you will see under that training and education headline, account number 526210, dues, 526220, subscription/publications, 526230, convention/meetings, and 526231, sales and marketing. So that's the breakdown. It's not just training and education.
Understood. Now that makes more sense, because I'm like, well, okay. So that makes more sense. Understood. So I think that what you have here would be excellent to have, definitely in larger print, but I think that's where, and maybe our treasurer needs to, or have the director of finance to provide us a month-over-month variance changes. That is a rolled forward report so that we can see the activities that are taking place, and what we're spending compared to how much revenue is coming in.
Okay. Councilwoman Arnold?
I know that I'm not on BIDA, but I do want to at least make this comment because it's
Please do.
important. The document has 2025 amended budget. And I want to make sure that that whatever it is that's being voted on or whatever is being recorded, that is recorded accurately. This is not an amended budget. There has not been a budget amendment the entire year. So it needs to still say original budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Motley Broom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I would have the question of Mr. Jackson in regard to that column, the 2025 amended budget. What that means, why is amended there?
It should say 2025 original budget, not amended.
Okay, so that is just, that's just incorrect. All right, so, Madam Chair, I would ask, as we move forward, if we're going to take a look at a budget, that we actually do, to Member Jefferson's point, have the actual budget detail, because while she was concerned about the $81,646.84 that was spent on training and education, $80,326.84 of that was on conventions and meetings. So we don't have the underlying detail to line item 5584985526230 to understand what's comprised of that number.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Wyatt.
Just don't always want to be a bad news, so I'm just going to say that I'm just going to concur with Councilman, maybe speaking something to existence. Board Member Jefferson, I thought she brought out some excellent points about detail. So I just want to concur with what she was saying.
With the detail. Okay, Dr. Williams.
In reference to once again, the training and education line, I wanted to take a look at 526220 and ask, what exactly are our subscription and publications? What is that money going towards?
So, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
One of the things that we would like for whenever we get a permanent economic development director is for that individual to have access to CoStar, a very important tool, and that has a subscription cost that basically eats up the majority of that $10,784, about $9,600 of it. There's another Adobe subscription that was put in by our IT department in the amount of $1,183.58. So that's what comprises the $10,000 number that you were referring to. Also, I did hear you all loud and clear on the details. And so when we definitely can pull that, but for conventions and meetings, the breakdown area is the BIDA monthly meetings, BIDA awards, the BIDA retreat, and local conventions such as the South Metro Development Outlet. And and the vast majority of that's the BIDA awards. I had estimated that the BIDA awards costed about $40,000, so the fiscal 26 budget has $39,000 in the request. But then I made the mistake of asking the question, how much did we actually spend on the BIDA awards? And the answer is $61,000. So that is, when you're looking at 80,000 or so in, under conventions and meetings, that's where that breakdown comes from. This delicious proof of the pudding food that we have adds up. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Williams?
Okay. So in regards to what Keller Williams presented to us today, and it seems everyone's excited about this possibility. Is there anywhere, because I noticed our sales and marketing is kind of like what they're asking for, just for a portion of what they'll do. Are there any monies in this budget that can be shifted around to cover that potential cost from Keller Williams? Or is everything spoken for and will be zeroed out at the end of the year?
Yes, Brian.
So there's a little bit left in the sales and marketing, about $10,000 left in sales and marketing in the fiscal 25 budget that could be used to get started. This was really about next fiscal year, where in the sales and marketing request of $65,400, we have pre-marketing surveys and studies and title search at $30,000, marketing materials, custom signs, and a website at $10,000, conference attendance and sponsorships at $9,000, targeted developer outreach at $5,000, and additional marketing support for $11,400 for a total of $65,400. So that's what's in the fiscal 26 request. And if we need to adjust that number, we want to get your input on that. Based on the presentation you saw, if you're happy with 65.4 being the request, then that'll continue. If not, you should, discuss with council and let the city manager and the finance chair know.
Hold up, I think you may have misunderstood. I'm asking if there's any other line items that we may not have used and that money can be reallocated to the sales and marketing, or is everything spoken for?
Is everything spoken for?
Based on history.
Well, based on fiscal 25 so far, there's very little in other line items except that mysterious contingencies line item that remains, that could be shifted. But we have not used the $10,000 that's available in the sales and marketing budget itself.
Okay, did you want to say something, Mayor Pro
Oh,
Tem?
no, I was gonna just respond that, so basically the 10,000, because we can get started with this the broker now. So when they talked about that 35 to 64,000, it's really $10,000 less into the new year because we can begin with them now.
In theory, we have
In
to make
theory.
sure the city manager is
If we decide.
feverishly reallocating budgets right now, and anything that isn't claimed is gonna get put to some other use. So you all would need to let him know to leave us that $10,000 if you want us to spend it on this.
Okay, I did have a question. So when you were sharing the budget, what I was also hearing in terms of next year, we have the opportunity through land sales to get the $10 million that BIDA owes the city per se. And so are we looking at the possibility for next year of beginning to put some money into a fund for BIDA projects? Is that what, I'm just trying to see, I'm revisiting some of the things that you said at the beginning, so I know nobody commented on that, but what is the reality of BIDA being able to have an account, which still would be in the city's coffers, but a line that would be a reserve or something like that for BIDA?
So I think that,
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Brian, please.
that's a decision for this body collectively to make and give guidance to my boss, the city manager, and my colleague, the finance director. Attorney Wiley is going to speak about, in general, an intergovernmental agreement, and where the idea isn't to complicate things, it's simply to codify an agreed upon solution. If things remain the same, then every dollar that comes in goes into the general fund at the discretion of the city leadership. But another possibility could be, there's a decision made that we want BIDA to have a reserve. At the BIDA retreat in February, we heard from a redevelopment authority that had a $10 million reserve. And that reserve becomes a fund that's available for BIDA to use, usually at the city's discretion, to accomplish its ends, such as if there's an extremely blighted property, then BIDA has the authority to use that fund to take down that property and affect change. And so that's a decision that you all would get to make. And then how would that fund be generated? It could be very simply, when I put on my executive director hat, I'd say I'd like all the land sales proceeds to be split, 50% going to pay down debt and 50% going to build BIDA's reserve. When I take off that hat and put on my city hat, economic development, I respond, no, son, 70-30 going to the city. So that just becomes a dialogue between those sides. Is how would you like to see, BIDA have a fund? And what type of, if BIDA had a fund, what type of SOPs would you like to put in place to make sure that it's used appropriately? And how would you like to see it funded? And how do we balance that against making sure that we have a clearly defined formula for BIDA to pay down its debts to the other funds of the city as revenues come in? So that's, I'm here presenting options and for you all to chew on.
And Madam Chair, I just want to respond. Yeah, and one of the reasons I was interested in that is because as long as I've known BIDA's been in debt. And so this looks like we may have an opportunity in the upcoming year. I hope we have an opportunity for BIDA's debt to be paid. So the discussion of now, once you pay off your debt and you continue to sell land, what happens with those monies? And I think that is a legitimate discussion for the board to begin to look at, do those. And I mean, again, the money all goes to the city, but we're just talking about basically a line item that becomes money that now BIDA would have to do those things that you're saying. So I just think it's something for us to begin to think about, because we've just really not been in the position of being able to close on a property that would, or properties that would get us over that, well, the other page, the debt page. So I just think it's something, a lot of times you want to start looking, you plan ahead. You start thinking, okay, what will we do, rather than it comes and now we're all like, what are we going to do? So it's just something to start beginning to think about. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Jefferson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do think that there is opportunity to reclassify some of the allocation lines. I think that if you needed to create a separate fund, and I get what you're saying, splitting out the revenues accordingly, but the fact of the matter is, as we continue to generate these expenses, it's on the city's dime.
Yes.
And, until we can, I think if I heard you right, I think you just said that the BIDA awards was 61,000. We only approved 20,000 for this board. So see, that right there is an issue. So something clearly needs to be done. If we're spending 61,000 on an award show where we need to have our parcels marketed appropriately, that's a problem. So we definitely, I think we probably need a workshop, because that is not, to me, in my eyes, that's not acceptable. And I do believe at the beginning of the year, we're supposed to receive an itemized invoice of the BIDA budget, of the BIDA awards. That's supposed to have been in our packets, and I had asked for that. I don't know if the treasurer had gotten a copy of that. It's supposed to be in our packets, but that clearly, that is the problem. And we really, if we have to realign our goals to get this land sold, it should definitely have in our budget, our marketing strategy allocation line item should definitely be increased, because if you're saying that you are incapable of doing the marketing that's needed to get these parcels sold because you don't have the money in that line item budget, then that is a core issue. And if that's what you're referring to, now I kind of understand where you're coming from, because yes, in that case, but we still have to remain cognizant that everything that BIDA is doing is on the city's dime until we get this land sold.
Okay, Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I put the unrestricted revenues versus non-debt expenses slide back up. That if BIDA was an independent business, it makes enough money to pay for its expenses with a little left over. So I've heard some people suggest that BIDA should be independent. I personally think that interdependence would be crucial. Independent could lead to some unintended consequences. But being interdependent would be defining BIDA that, it needs to it needs to eat what it kills. And if BIDA is set up where it has unrestricted revenues that cover its expenses, then that could be reflected. And if there's some left over, that's the type of thing that would, legitimately be used to create a fund that BIDA builds up. Now, this slide does not have land on it, because land sales are different. BIDA is holding land in trust for the city. And so revenues generated from that don't belong exclusively to BIDA. So it's not being factored into, this is what BIDA as an independent business would look like. Now, again, some might ask, well, hey, why doesn't BIDA split those monies 50-50 and keep half of it? And another perspective is, well, all BIDA's doing is facilitating the transaction, so maybe it gets 10%, as if it were a commission. It gets something for its efforts, but it gets something. So there's legitimate arguments to make about how much revenue would an interdependent BIDA be able to keep for its own fund development purposes? But that's a conversation that may be worth having.
Okay. Any more? Okay, Ms. Jefferson, we're going to get ready to move on.
I just want to follow up with this, Mr. Hooker's last statement. So I do recognize that where you're coming from with being interdependent, right? My only concern with that is we are not, BIDA is not an urban and planning development board. We don't go out and provide our own funding or fundraising. We don't do that. We're conduit based upon what the city allocates to us and our funds. So, and then that also, denotes complications. Do we become full-time board members? If you're trying to make this an independent board to function as a core urban planning and development board, those are full-time positions. And I don't know if we're at that capacity. I do think that I don't think that there's anything not getting done through approval for these funds through BIDA. So I think that if things should come up and there's needing approvals to increase certain line items, I think that those activities are still getting done. I don't think there's anything right now prohibiting that from happening. I get what you're saying, that if you need some of these line items to budgets to be increased, then I think that you should have the necessary funding writings to justify the increase in that line item. To me, for instance, the marketing strategy. You have to have funding on board, for marketing. And if that's not there, then we really need to kind of re-strategize and look at that. But I just don't see anything not getting done right now through BIDA. And we can tell that because we got a whole bunch of expenses without any revenue. So it's getting done. Things are happening without the revenue. So I just think that you need a separate allocation fund for certain group of activities that you need to be able to function as the economic development director. Executive BIDA director. And I'll land there. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Mayor Motley Broom.
$61,000 for a party is obscene.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, then. To round out, we're going to hear a presentation from our attorney, Wiley, on intergovernmental agreements. She's requested to make this presentation when we're putting tonight's agenda together. This is for information and discussion purposes only. I believe these types of agreements can be helpful in helping with our collaboration efforts as we share the mutual goal of benefiting the residents and business we serve. Thank you, Attorney Wiley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was dreading being last because I didn't want anyone throwing tomatoes at me to hurry up and finish. But it has been enlightening, I had 2 presentations to show you all. If you will indulge me, I'd like to start with another one I downloaded. It's number 3, because it answers some of the questions and it dovetails nicely into what y'all are talking about. And it'll be brief, but when I first had the pleasure of working with City of College Park and BIDA, my first task was draft an intergovernmental agreement between these 2 entities. And so I had to dig deep. Understand, it took me 3 months to figure it all out so that I could put together something that was acceptable to the city attorney and the BIDA attorney, and bring it and present it to you all. And that agreement was loved by some, hated by others. And so it sits in purgatory somewhere. I don't know where it is, but some of you all may remember that, those discussions. They went on for quite some time. But that generally shows that when we talk about doing agreements with lawyers, it's a bad agreement if someone walks out the room and they're doing a sprint, they're running, not walking, and the other party who's on the other side is being carried out on a stretcher. It's not a good agreement. A good agreement, the way we speak of it in legal terms, is when both parties are walking out with a little limp, because you have to give up something to get something. And so you're never gonna have a perfect agreement, but I just want to talk about 2 things specifically, and one that I added listening to this great conversation. I'll talk about intergovernmental agreements generally. I'll talk about BIDA's SOPs that mirror or mimic an intergovernmental agreement, but it's one-sided. It's BIDA's voluntary adoption of rules to act as a conduit to the city. But before I do that, what I'm adding is the charter talks about property disposition. And there are some gaps in the charter, okay? So I want to talk about what it says, because I believe Brian spoke to that. Let's see if I have the right, which one?
Big green arrow.
Big green arrow, thank you, Brian. Well, I'm hitting, got it. The one in the middle, I'm hitting it, it's not.
The one at the top.
Well, that's a little arrow. One that says danger? Not that one. Okay, so the charter talks about BIDA's authority to sell property. We know that BIDA is a constitutional authority created by way of a local constitutional amendment to Georgia Constitution. So the charter says that BIDA can hold, lease, and dispose of real and personal property of every kind and character for its corporate purposes. What does that mean? That means that the authority can sell, BIDA can sell property outright or enter into lease agreements. And the restriction, however, is that that property disposal has to advance BIDA's corporate purposes. So, of course, we know what those corporate purposes are. We're well aware of those. We talked about those in the retreat, and I won't revisit those here. So the charter does identify, and Brian spoke to this, that the sales proceeds from BIDA-owned property is classified as trust funds under our charter. And the Section 23 says that you can use those proceeds as specified in the document. The only limitation on selling property or disposing of property is that if the property is bonded, of course, there are restrictions. You can't get rid of property that's under a bond transaction. But the properties that are unrelated to bonds are not subject to those restrictions. So here's the rub. The unrestricted proceeds, this is the gap in the charter that I don't know needs to be made up in an intergovernmental agreement or just by continuing the practice that Board Member Jefferson has said that we have been operating under. So BIDA retains authority over the proceeds from non-bond property sales. But BIDA can only use those proceeds in connection with furthering its mission and purpose. So it comes back to the money can only be used to benefit the city in the form that the charter says. And so I think what we're doing, what I'm hearing is that when property is sold, 100% of those proceeds are going back to the city. And that's the practice, but that's not in an agreement per se. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up and have that special reference to sections 23 and 24 of your charter. So we'll go back to the intergovernmental agreement. It's the intergovernmental agreement document. It was the first one that I was going to discuss. Not the number 2, just the intergovernmental agreement analysis. So a lot of when you all were using terms like interdependent or dependent, I mean, you really were speaking to what's here. So this presentation will not seem as boring because you all have actually talked about real problems that these type of documents can be used to address. They don't have to, as the Economic Development Director stated, or your Executive Director, both hats, depending on which one he's put on both of those tonight. But it's up to you all. It's up to the two entities to decide what type of agreement you want, or if you want an agreement, or if what we're doing is enough. So we'll talk about a little bit about what an IGA is. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because y'all are seasoned political and public officials. You understand that. We'll talk about some best practices. I was asked to pull some other jurisdictions and take a look at those, and some recommendations for negotiation, execution, and oversight, if that's something you want to do. And then, of course, lastly, I will incorporate and show you what we're actually doing now pursuant to the SOPs. So we know that the Georgia Constitution has an intergovernmental contract clause that allows 50-year terms for agreements between governmental entities. And so IGAs are backed by a solid legal foundation. We know that development authorities are specialized entities that have their main thrust and purpose based on economic focus, and they function within their unique legal structures and have specific operational capabilities and flexibilities. So one of the things that when you're discussing or considering whether to do an intergovernmental agreement, you look at the players that are involved. You have your municipal leadership through your elected representatives, and of course, the governing authority sets the policy, direction, and approve major agreements pertaining to economic development. So we know that our governing authority, mayor and council, they set the vision for the community development and economic growth. Our BIDA authority members, development authority boards, we engage in specialized expertise. We have more nimble decision-making authority because the rules that allow us to engage in real estate transactions are less stringent than that which applies to municipalities. And then where the rubber meets the road, we have the staff, your professional staff who translate policy direction into operational reality, managing those day-to-day activities and providing continuity across the city and the authority. But then there are challenges. Nothing is perfect. I told you about the one that I did. It was a piece of nice word, but it went nowhere. It was a lead balloon in the end. You have jurisdictional overlap sometimes. And I was thinking about a good example for that. And the charter for BIDA says that the BIDA can have its own staff, its own offices, and maintain its own independent status. The city has already an established professional staff and ability to assist BIDA. So they have two, they're overlapping jurisdictional authorities because they each can function independently, but that's not how most operate. Some do. You can also have problems when there are different operational misalignments. The authority wants to go one way, and I'm not talking about this authority, I'm speaking in general, and the governing authority wants to go another way. That should not happen but it does. You have fights sometimes between these two entities, but that shouldn't happen because the two entities are bound by the economic prosperity for the governing authority for which they represent. And of course, the resource disparities, unequal capacity among entities. The governing authority will have the resources. The authorities usually do not have as much revenue. And of course, you can have changes in leadership that can sometimes affect whether or not an IGA can be successful or even is something you want to pursue. So there are different types of authorities: highly dependent, independent. Y'all talked about those, and then there's the hybrid models. And then there's that control spectrum where you have a high degree of control over certain matters, but not others. Just limited control over specific matters. So for a highly dependent authority, those are the ones that are tightly bound to this governing authority. They have significant budgetary control by the city or the county. They have all of their operational support is provided by the city, and they have limited independence, meaning their autonomous decision-making ability is subject to the oversight and control of the governing authority. And then you have and I don't know who those folks are, that's what my AI picked up, so just people at a table looking like they're doing some work, but you have the independent authorities. And is Invest Atlanta, would they be considered an independent authority? Where they have an autonomous and structure, separate identity, they have separate legal and financial standings. Those independent authorities have greater freedom in their operational decisions, and very little control is exercised by the governing authority. So here's where, I always say that BIDA is a component unit of the city. I think I've seen that in some of the audit reports and the budgetary reports when it's defining what the authority means to the governing authority, because they have these criteria for financial reporting and that fiscal relationship, which oftentimes, to me, will tell you whether or not you're going to have an independent or a highly integrated authority. So if you were considering entering into an IGA, first you want to determine what areas or topics do we want to consider? Do we want it to be broad? Do we want it to be limited? Or do we want to have something that, or not have one at all? And of course, resource allocation. Do we want to share resources? Do we want to allow the authority to hire its own staff and thereby causing the flip side of that, is that a duplicative service for which the taxpayer shouldn't bear? If you have someone if the city can handle and step in and handle it, then why would the authority need something different? Again, for BIDA has the constitutional right to have its own staff. That's not how we've been operating. And a lot of authorities do not operate like that because it makes more fiscal sense to integrate those responsibilities. And then, of course, how we resolve disputes. And do we want to set some performance metrics? Do we want to have something where at the end of the year or whatever we come back to the city or come back to the governing authority and see if the expectations have been met? And that will sort of help govern and keep everybody moving along the same purpose and path. So, all of these things for effective IGAs, but I want to look at some of and I'm going to go quickly through them, their peer examples, just looking at, and I say successful models. I don't know if they're successful or not, and I also don't know if they change. These are documents from publicly obtained sources, so they could have changed or been revised, but you look at the Lawrenceville and its DDA, the city maintains oversight. The city gets all the proceeds after redevelopment, and there is clear responsibilities and clear structured reporting requirements from the DDA to the city. Stockbridge, and I should put an asterisk right here. I have personal knowledge because I drafted this one, but the city funds the authority, the development authority. The city provides the staff, and here the share and sale proceeds. They had originally agreed to do a 60-40 split, which was very generous, where if the authority sold property, then the authority could retain 60% of the proceeds and 40% would go back to the city. The city nixed that and they would decide the split on a case-by-case basis. So every time there's a sale, they decide what that split will be. So we have South Fulton, they share space, they have a quarterly reporting structure, they have joint strategic planning. So this model creates a daily interaction while maintaining appropriate separation between the entities. There are formal updates to ensure transparency, and they're located in the same municipal building. Woodstock, dedicated staff, city provides office, they have a shared infrastructure, technology, communications, all of that is provided by the city. And the city provides staff training and certification. All of that's done through city resources. So that's a highly dependent entity. So most of these agreements, and there were more, I took some out while I was at the beginning of the meeting because like Nicole, I didn't want it was too long. We would have been here much longer, but I can provide all of that post-meeting. But most of these IGAs say that the city maintains the approval rights for how the development authority properties are utilized. Because usually, as Board Member Jefferson noted, this is the city property. The city gives the property, conveys the property to the authority. So most of these involve the city having that kind of control over how the property is disposed of. And the city is typically retained oversight over all the major financial commitments that could impact municipal finances. And this discussion on IGAs does not include bond transactions. That's a whole separate thing, so I want to make certain that we're clear. This is for non-bond related matters. Okay, so as I said, most of these models have a dedicated staff model, a shared office model, an executive leadership model, where you have a city executive, often the economic development director, serves as the authority's director. Sounds familiar, right? And because of this shared staffing model, there is a continuous line of communication that is open between the two entities. Most of the ones that I looked at, Stockbridge, they provide dedicated funding through annual appropriations. Some, like the city of Dallas, they allocate resources for specific projects rather than general operations. There are joint funding. This came up, cannot remember the jurisdiction, but multiple entities contribute to share. I think that was Lilburn, where there was a 3 government entity, and they all shared in the cost of funding for consultants to do their marketing and development. And then the revenue sharing, and this is sort of kind of dovetails into what Brian was speaking about before I got up, that, you could have an agreement that allows the authorities to retain a portion of revenues to create sustainable funding, or in our instance, that portion of generated revenues could be dedicated to the fund, some type of fund. Brian, you were saying some type of fund that we could hold, and just in the event that we wanted to do something in the future. I can't remember what you said. But it doesn't have to be that the money comes directly back to the authority. It could be an instance where the money is directed to be placed in a specific account for a specific purpose. And that could be a proper subject of an IGA. So all of these have the same common approach as the city transfers of properties. There are development parameters, there are reversion clauses, approval rights. The city always maintains the right to review the developments before implementation. And of course, the revenue distribution, it varies. I don't believe there's probably anything that is, you can say, is uniform. You might have something, because every jurisdiction is different. Some jurisdictions want to have their authority operate as an independent entity, and they want them off the general fund budget. So they encourage, like the city of Stockbridge, I believe, had that as its mission. Others, city of Sonoya, allows the authority to retain 6% of the proceeds. And for Lawrenceville, the authority has to give all the net proceeds back to the city. Of course, any IGA has to have good termination clauses. If you want to end it, it can be time-based. They can be up to 50 years. I've never seen a 50-year agreement, even though the Constitution allows it. I've just never seen one. And again, you can put performance-based provisions in the IGA so that termination can be based upon some failure to satisfy any performance expectations. All right, so lastly, the IGA, you want to have one that's flexible enough to adapt to changing circumstances, maybe having regular review periods, having it come up for review every so many years, having clear options to amend any provisions that might become outdated, and a flexible implementation approach so that if you're going to have an IGA, you may want to have future goals and expectations set and then put benchmarks to achieving those. And if you go to my last, the number 3, this is going to be how BIDA operates currently. BIDA operates like there is an IGA. We operate like we have an IGA, which is really good because BIDA has taken upon itself to, number 3, it will be number 2, because I added 3, I'm sorry. I was only supposed to do 2 and I added that first one. So this is BIDA's adopted, number 3, the BIDA's SOPs. It's hot. So, like I said, we have some really strong SOPs that show that there was an intention to provide a framework that produces a collaborative and respectful partnership with the city of College Park. So let's look at some of those real. So we operate under our state authority, but our bylaws are carefully structured to align with the city development policies. So you have the city council vision. It recognizes that the city sets the overall development direction. The city manager helps implement that through his leadership with the city, but he works with BIDA to help implement the strategic plan that the city develops. And BIDA, we're accountable for executing those policies by entering into projects and agreements that align with the council's vision. And so you have the city manager through the economic development director ensure adherence to the city's strategic plan. And we have integrated governance and meetings just like we're having right now. This is one way we keep the lines of communication open, where we have mandated meetings between BIDA and the council to give updates on all the things that we heard tonight. We collaborate with that agenda setting, and there is documentation and minutes. There's a joint effort by city staff and BIDA and the mayor and the clerk all working together to have this integrated governance and meeting. And this, of course, ensures regular communication flow and creates transparency. So again, we have a shared staffing, and the city serves as the administrative backbone for BIDA. And this is, we all know this, I won't have to read that. Here's how and this is how we all need to be routinely reading on that. I know Board Member Jefferson, she is the SOP expert. So if you have any questions or concerns, ask her about that SOP. She knows it. And that process that has been voluntarily adopted by BIDA requires all purchase proposals to go through the city, through the city's executive session and reviewed by council before we can proceed. The legal documents are jointly developed by BIDA's attorney, the city's attorney, to assure alignment. The city, all the closing documents and the financing goes through the city's accounting structure for the funds, and all of the records are maintained with the city. So the city guides all of our real estate activity, and there are multiple checkpoints for oversight and alignment. That's it. So I guess the issue then becomes, we're back at square one, and I'll turn back over to the executive director, because we're back to his statement where he said we need to hear from you all as to what you all want to do, or if you want to do anything. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Right.
So tonight's meeting, thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight's meeting was all about the budget. We had the marketing presentation to make sure that the budget is the right size. We have the intergovernmental agreement presentation to talk about should we change the way we're tracking and allocating funds within the budget. But it's all about the budget. So I would wonder if there are any additional comments on anything about the budget, anything about the IGA. I wanted to hear from the city's general counsel on any comments he had about the presentation that was just made. And so we want to hear from you, and it's late, but if y'all go home and don't tell us anything, we don't know how to execute for you going forward. I did hear loud and clear from the mayor that we got to do something different about the BIDA awards. That was clear. And so budget-wise, the amount that's in this current fiscal 26 request was $39,000. So we want to talk about, as Board Member Jefferson mentioned, maybe reallocating that to somewhere else, to marketing or whatever. If there's any conversations, I would encourage the chair to facilitate those conversations.
Okay, anyone? Okay, who wants to go first? Okay, Mayor Motley Brown.
Madam Chair, respectfully, we have covered a lot of information tonight.
Yes.
And I am understanding of Mr. Hooker's desire to get feedback. I think constructive feedback, or the most constructive feedback, may come in the form of some questions for us. Now that we've had an opportunity to get this information, some specific questions based upon the information that we've received tonight. I know we don't want to pause anything, but I'm just unclear about, you want feedback from the last 3 hours, essentially, which seems like a big elephant at this point, and that perhaps we might be able to hone the discussion in a little bit to make sure that the information that you need is what you actually receive from us.
May I?
Okay.
Yeah,
Mayor Pro Tem.
Piggybacking on what Mayor is saying, perhaps it would be advantageous for us to even, because you kind of know a direction that maybe, or suggestive direction that you might be thinking about for us, and perhaps we could have some type of a survey or something that was sent to the members even between now and the next meeting, with some, questions that would give us that opportunity to go through that thought process, because I'm with you right now. I wouldn't know where to begin, but I do need direction. So I think that the questions themselves, or the survey, however it would be, and then give us that opportunity to give the feedback. Again, also with the attorney's presentation could be attached again, or some any pertinent documents that you think would assist us in looking at the creation of another IGA, rather than just to get our feedback. So I am definitely in agreement with that.
Okay, Dr. Williams.
Along those same lines, Attorney Wiley, is it possible to get a draft of some notable IGAs so that we can have a look at them, see what may or may not apply to College Park, if that's possible? Not somebody's document, but an idea of.
You mean trying to sort of take what I've heard and what has been discussed and probably draft something that leaves some options for you all to consider based on what we've heard, or do you just want copies of the documents that I was referencing?
Best practices.
Okay.
Best practices.
Yes, ma'am. I can get that for you.
Okay, anyone else?
I was just going to respond to what Dr. Williams, and to Attorney Wiley. No, I don't think at this point we want you to draft something. So it would just more so be able to give us some examples of some other IGAs that would be similar to maybe the direction that we're looking at, or different, on different ends of the spectrum.
Okay, Ms. Jefferson.
Thank you. I guess my first, well, thank you, Attorney Wiley. That was a very impressive presentation. My question is to Attorney Wiley. Well, actually, I'm sorry, what is your name? You're the Director of Finance?
Yes, Terry Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah.
My first question is to you.
Mm-hmm.
When the budget meetings are aligned or scheduled, do you guys submit risk and assumptions, lead sheets based upon what the new budgets will be?
Risk and assumptions.
So I don't know if that's
It's not a standard practice.
Okay, so maybe that's not a standard practice in city government. So, but in the private sector, before we issue a budget, we have a risk and assumptions lead sheet based upon the complications that you're having utilizing the BIDA's budget. So I think maybe if we started there to understand what are your problems or issues that you're having that's preventing you from fully, executing your role, and where that conflicts with the way the current budget is. And
I think it's called a budget to actuals, when you forecast or look at the trends.
Okay, yeah.
For governmental budgeting.
Yes,
yeah,
and we
it includes the projections, as a Councilwoman Arnold said, but it also has written out what are our risks that we incurred with the current budget versus what our new budget will be to project our assumptions.
Okay.
And then based upon that, you would make, in effect, your changes that you're going to make to the budget, meaning a new fund, however the split revenue, and so forth. So maybe Attorney Wiley, if maybe we can start there, because right now I'm not fully clear on what's preventing Mr. Hooker from executing this budget effectively. Now, we definitely know that we have some allocation issues, because that BIDA awards, clearly, there wasn't an oversight or auditing of that, because we made sure all the prior years, whatever our budget was, we adhered to the GICC budget for that. And that was explicitly communicated with the GICC to make sure it didn't go over. It could come in under, but it didn't go over. So somewhere in that process, something was broken down. And it could have been because we didn't have the exposure of having this current city manager to have that oversight, director of finance, to have that review prior to it being approved. And so that's where, I recognize what Mayor Pro Temp mentioned about the survey, but I think that we really need a risk and assumptions lead sheet. And also, do we still have the head count of you having a project manager? Because we had that in the head count.
May I address that
Yes.
question, Madam Chair? We have two positions that we've been authorized to hire. A program manager
Okay.
and a program assistant. So the program manager is at a slightly higher level than the project manager.
Okay.
And the program assistant's at a slightly higher level than our current assistant,
Okay.
who has announced her resignation.
Okay.
I am pleased to report that offer letters for both positions, following extensive interviews over the last few weeks, offer letters went out today.
Okay, good.
And so
Okay.
we're looking forward to hearing back. One of the persons who received the offer has employment, so if she accepts, will likely be a May start. And the other, we're waiting to hear.
Got it. So I think that where we can strengthen ourselves is to really, if the city is now in the hiring engagement, you're fulfilling those positions, we really need to strengthen ourselves in utilizing the city services in order to conduct the marketing that we need. The communications department does a fabulous job with some of the marketing materials that I've seen that they have promoted through the website. Now, I don't know if that's an outsourced company or if it's in-house, but we may need to extend on what our services that we really, really need on a monthly basis to support those two additional headcounts and support what your marketing strategy needs to be in order for you to get the funding that you need from the budget. So, thank you.
Madam Chair, ma'am.
Yes,
I just wanted to
yeah,
respond to Member Jefferson, just to clarify. When I talked about a survey, the survey wasn't about the budget. The survey is about the IGA. Okay, so the survey would be based on the mayor was when when we were listening to all this information about learning about how BIDA functions right now, meaning if we're looking at doing a new IGA, what would that look like? So the survey would be pertaining to that. Now, what you said about the budget that's good too. So that's a different. And the last piece is, I'm not opposed to spending money on an event, but you got to make money too. So I think the issue one is that we went over the BIDA went over the budget last year, and the BIDA board was not aware of it. But the key is. And I know before I ever got on BIDA, they were having $70,000 events. So the one that we had when the Gateway Arena was Giannis isn't here, but the one when that year 2019 when the Gateway Arena was open, we had a party here at the GICC, Sabrina, remember, and then we went over to the Gateway. That was and then we had major speakers. So it's not that the city hasn't practiced that, but we have to be mindful of whatever we budgeted. And so if the budgeted item is 39, we need to stick to the 39. But I also think that 39 also needs to be a response to the amount of funding that we have also received. So we may want to revisit this, leave it where it is, but if we haven't closed on anything by November, we need to look at that again. So I'm not going to be a joy kill, buzz kill, whatever you call it. But I think that if we're going to party, we need to have something to party over.
Okay, Councilwoman.
I just want to add on to the budget comments that have already been made. I support, everything that has been said as far as the party is concerned, the budget is concerned. But I also want to make sure that I caution everyone on the fact that Georgia has a law in place about budget. Your budget is your spend authority. So if you've exceeded your budget and we have not done a budget amendment, which we have not, then it's difficult for us to be talking about what we're going to set a new budget at until we go through that exercise. Just want to make sure that I don't want to be a buzzkill either, right? But I do want us to be compliant. And so just wanting to make sure that we note that, because that means that we need to rapidly take care of business before we get into the exercise of talking about new money.
Okay, anybody else have anything else to say? And the minutes, you want to go back to that?
Yes.
Anybody else? Okay. We'll go back to the minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While we were here, we heard from the stenographer who clarified, and this is about the minutes from the March 12th meeting, who clarified our discussion on items, lines 793 through 803. She confirmed that 2 actions did take place, that's not duplicative. And so she couldn't make out who made the motion and who made the second. That's why it says not audible. But the 2 different actions were executive session minutes and authorizing the affidavit to be executed. So with that, where if the board accepts that, where we stand now is line item that I would ask the chair to call for a motion that adopts the minutes with correction to line number 251, which should read Interim Executive Director Brian Hooker instead of Interim Director Jonas Barner, and that calls for correction to line 326 that reads to do that as a separate allocation for preservation fund. That's the correction that Board Member Celissa Jefferson offered.
Okay, do we have a motion? Motion by Ms. Jefferson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by
McKenzie.
McKenzie, Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Huh? No opposed, okay. Motion passes with the minutes.
Was there
any
an
other-
opposition that needed to be noted? I believe Dr. Williams, did you? Oh, okay.
She said
Thank
aye.
you, thank you.
Okay, we good. Motion passes. Do we have any other issues? Okay, no other issues. I just, I have to speak of going over the budget. I came onto the board back in 2006, and one thing I could say that College Park always, that was an opportunity for not only the BIDA, but the city to engage in developers' community. And we did go over the budget. We did try to stay, but we did go over the budget. But I have to say, during that time, we really tried to stay on the budget. But we were at a crucial time in our community where I felt the morale, I felt things weren't moving, people were really just, we weren't in a good place. And sometimes we have to turn the energy within our community. Was that, I came back, some things I have to stand on principle. We honored not only our businesses, we honored our community. We brought our community in. They were able to turn our energy. And coming into 2025, I saw a change in our community. Our community turned. And with that, our BIDA board has changed. We got, goodness, let me say this. I get emotional because it's time. We gotta move our city forward. We are open for business. And if we're gonna be open for business, we gotta hold on to it. And with that being said, they kind of hit me a little bit, to be honest. But this year, we won't go over budget. We'll stay within the budget. But with that, our community deserves the best. And we need to be the best that we can be. And we have to be able to show that we are unified, that we are a community on the move. We are open for business. And sometimes you have to show up and be your best self. And sometimes you can't dub yourself down. We are a community of excellence. The GICC, we stand for something not only in our city, our state, but nationally, worldwide. People come here. We have a top catering service here in the city of College Park. We have top-notch video service, and we pay for it. Our city built this building. And I do feel that they ought to showcase our city every year. We should be a zero. You want to know the truth about it. We are a city that's getting ready to do great things. And this year, I have to read my paper, but I just wanted to say that part first. This year has been one of forward momentum for BIDA, driven by impactful development, strategic partnerships, and a deep commitment to equity and transparency. Are we perfect? No. Let me begin by highlighting the transformative development projects. First, BIDA finalized a pivotal transaction with CleanSpark involving a sale valued at almost $320,000. These are things that are on the move. We got some things happening. Second, we approved moving forward with Project Extra. We got things on the table. Things are moving. Third, we've continued to advance our planning with PMG with our residential development for 6 West. This is a new mixed-use neighborhood, priorities, low density, modern housing, biking, pedestrian. The citizens, we engaged in charrettes to try to get the public input and collaborations. We're moving forward with CREED. We're trying to get all of the titles and everything done in order to get our part right as a board and as a city. Right now, turning into BIDA, I tell you, this has been a day for me, number one. Been probably one of the most painful days in my life right now. And I'm sitting here because I care about this city. I've served this city. I've been present. I stay present. We have a team right now. We have a mayor and council who are working together, making things happen. We have a BIDA board. We have I get nervous. Economic Development Department. We have an awesome city manager. We have a community that's happy. We have 4 who's out here. We're doing some things. And I just don't want us to get caught up in making us feel like, okay, yeah, but y'all know we'll get that right this year. We're going to get that right. Even to come back to zero, I don't know what it's going to come back. But we're going to continue to show up in excellence. Everything that we do need to be shown up in excellence. We can't be right here at the world's busiest airport and we can't. The time is now. And I'm excited about the new year and the things that we've accomplished as a board. We got more work to do. We got groundbreakings. We got things. We have a new community garden. I'm glad to see Ms. Holly here. We got a lot of good things coming. Let's work together. Let's, sometimes we got to put away all our indifferences. We got to forgive. We got to move the city forward. We're in a time in our country where things are not, we got an opportunity. We're like, 11 square miles? We can get this thing together. If we can't do it in 11 square miles, we got a problem. So let's get together. I apologize for the lecture, but I'm excited for the things that are happening. I'm thankful, I'm humbled to be a part of this movement. I'm thankful to be back. I know with God on our side, I don't take for granted when I say, hey, let's start praying. We gotta be the ones that change this energy. And I need each one of you all to work with me, but give me grace, because I'm stepping out of my box when I come and I'm doing something that I'm a worker bee, but I'm stepping out of my box when I have to get up here and I have to voice the way I feel. But I need grace. And with that, I know I can do even more. So I thank you all. I thank you all for the night. I thank you for Attorney Wiley coming on board. Winston Denmark, I thank you. I see Larry Evans over there. I tell you, I thank you. We are solid. We are solid. And we can't let nobody turn us around and act like we are solid. So let's move this thing forward. Let's get it. And I'm just thankful. God bless. And finna join the meeting. Thank you, Lord.